Hey guys, Zack here, and welcome back to another action figure review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Lost World Jurassic Park Hammond Collection Stegosaurus. Now, I've been wanting this figure in the Hammond Collection for a very long time. I really like the Stegosauruses from the Lost World Jurassic Park. I don't like the Jurassic World Stegosaurus that much. I know, I've been very negative towards Jurassic World lately, but actually, there is no excuse. I just don't like Jurassic World. But yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of the Jurassic World Stegosaurus. To me, like a lot of the dinosaurs that were in Jurassic World, that were in like the original trilogy, like to me, I feel like are all downgrades. I feel like the Jurassic World Triceratops is a huge downgrade from the Jurassic Park Triceratops, and the Stegosaurus here is no exception. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like the droopy nature of it. I don't know if it's the lack of colors. I don't know. There's something about the Jurassic World Stegosaurus that just looks gross to me. And just a huge downgrade from the Stegosaurus from the Lost World Jurassic Park. And again, I'm very happy that Mattel decided to base their Hammond Collection Stegosaurus off of the Lost World Stegosaurus. I remember they also released the baby Triceratops in the Hammond Collection line, but they based that off of the Jurassic World Triceratops. And again, I don't like the Jurassic World Triceratops. So when this figure got leaked, I was a little worried, but I'm happy to be wrong. I love the Stegosaurus from the Lost World. I think it's not the most accurate depiction of the animal, but to me, it still looks really nice. I do like it a lot, even if it is like absurdly massive. Like, still, I like the Lost World Stegosaurus, but I digress. Anyway, I've been rambling on for a little bit now. Let's just get right into this. Like usual, to start, we'll take a look at the paint, and the painting on this figure I think looks very good. So, as you can see, most of this figure is casted in this yellowish coloration, which I think looks nice. Of course, the top half of the figure here, we have a very nice dark shade of green. I think the colors on this figure are a little too vibrant, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just not 100% accurate to the movie. You can have, like, a paint scheme on a figure that's not accurate to the source material, just as long as it looks good. And this figure looks really good. But throughout this green, and even on the yellow bits as well, we have a lot of really nice, like, brown, like, dry brushing here, which I think looks really nice. It adds a lot more depth to this figure. I think it looks really nice. And this green coloration is actually going to go all the way to the end of the tail, which is really nice and very uncommon for Mattel figures nowadays. So, well, I mean, it's always been like that, but still, like, this is huge. I'm happy with this. The Thagomizers here are going to be painted this tannish color. I wish they had a little more dry brushing like the rest of, like, the body here, but as is, like, that still looks fine. I'm okay with that. The dorsal plates here are going to be casted in this dark blackish coloration, and there's going to be a lot of dry brushing of like this nice brownish, like greenish coloration. And for a Mattel figure, this looks really good. Like, Mattel, like, their paint jobs aren't the best, right? They're not outright horrible, but they're never really the best. But like this looks phenomenal, and I love this. The toenails here are going to be painted brown. Going to the head here, we can see that the beak is going to be painted brown as well. And lastly, the eyes, just like with the Tiger Raptor, are going to be glass eyes. And I can't say I'm the biggest fan of this. I've mentioned this before. Like, the idea of glass eyes, I think, like, they're cool, in concept. But for a figure like this, where, like, the eyes are, like, small, it's kind of hard for it to show up properly, like, on camera, unless you have, like, direct, like, light going into the eye. Like, as is, like, I like, it just looks lifeless. I'm not the biggest fan of this, I prefer, like, just regular, just painted eyes, but granted, this looks better than the Tiger Raptor, but, again, as is, I would have just preferred painted eyes, Again, like, in direct light, it looks good, and I'll put up a picture, but, again, like, just painted eyes would be better. Assuming that Mattel could just paint properly and not have it just go anywhere else on the figure, but I digress. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the painting on this figure. And the painting on this figure, I think is pretty much perfect. You know, again, I would have preferred painted eyes, but as is, the painting here is phenomenal. So the painting on this figure, I'd say definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the articulation. And to start, the head here is on a ball joint and can move pretty decently. I like the range of movement here. Same with the base of the neck here, just a lot of really nice movement here. The forelimbs can go forward that much and backwards about that much. They can spread like so. Some of the joints on mine are a little tight, so you might need a hair blow dryer to heat up some of the joints. But still, the forelimbs can move like that. We do have bends in the knees here, and they can swivel as well. And the ankles here can move upwards and downwards like so, and can also swivel. The articulation for the hind limbs are pretty much the same. It can move about backwards that much and forwards that much. It can spread, not as much as the forelimbs, but you can still get a little bit of spread there. Again, bends in the knees here, as well as some swivels. And the ankles. They can move upwards and downwards, but again, on mine, they are very tight. But you can get some movement there. Now, the tail surprises me. Right, so at the base of the tail, there's a ball joint. You know, pretty standard. And for a lot of these Hammond collection figures, if not all of them, what there is, you know, there's like a rubber tail and there's a bendy wire inside. But not with this figure. The tail is all rubber, but there's actually like a skeleton inside rather than a ball joint. So you can like pose the tail and bend it however you want and not have to worry about anything snapping. And I'm a really big fan of that. I get that like you can't really do that with like smaller figures like the Tiger Raptor, you know, so like that, like I can understand, but for something like this, like I'm happy with, you know, and that rubber tail really like, you know, gives off Kenner vibes, and I'm a huge fan of this. I'm happy with this. So, yeah. Overall, the articulation on this figure I think is great. One thing I want to point out that I actually just forgot. So lately, what Mattel's been doing with their herbivore figures is they've been giving them mouth articulation, but they either put the, you know, joint in the wrong place, or they just do something that just looks really ugly. But for this figure, they just abandoned that altogether, and I gotta admit, I'm really happy they did that, because this Stegosaurus looks really good without a weird, like, you know, joint here, or a weird, like, membrane like the baby Stegosaurus had. Like, this looks good. I would rather have less articulation than have a lot of articulation that breaks the sculpt of this figure. So, yeah, I'm really happy about this. The one thing that I don't like about this figure, it has nothing to do with the articulation. It actually has something to do with, like, the design of this figure. And that is that this figure is very back-heavy due to the tail. You know, a very easy fix, you know, just take one of the legs here and just pose it, like, in the back like that, so that way it can, like, hold the tail. And that does a good job for the most part. You know, but if you were to make the Stegosaurus, you know, stand neutral, and you can see that, yeah. Unfortunately, that's what happens. But again, very easy fix. But I'm sure a lot of people, including myself, would have preferred a neutral standing Stegosaurus, you know. And even still, like, like, this Stegosaurus is, like, balancing on, like, its back two legs. So yeah, this is the one thing that I don't like. You know, one thing I really don't like. But overall, the articulation here, still, I think is really nice. Definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the sculpt. And the sculpting on this figure, it's perfect. It is one-to-one how this Stegosaurus looked in the Lost World Jurassic Park. You know, nothing here looks too out of place or too big or too small. Everything here looks perfect. When I reviewed the Hammond Collection Tiger Raptor, I complained about the hips, but this figure, not a problem at all. The hips here look very natural and not weird at all. And overall, like, the sculpting here, like, it's perfect. I don't have a lot else to say. Like, I'm very happy with how this figure turned out sculpt-wise. So, the sculpting on this figure, I'd say, definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the detailing. And the detailing here, I mean, come on, you know what I'm going to say. The detailing in the head here, I think looks really nice. All of the musculature in the face here and all of, like, the scales and wrinkles and everything are detailed very nicely. Everything here is very nicely defined. And again, like on the side of the neck here, just a lot of really nice, like, wrinkles and creases. And again, just a lot of really nice musculature here. You know, all like the scaling and everything is just detailed very nicely. Everything here just looks very nicely defined. And same with the forelimbs here, just a lot of really nice musculature. And all like the scales and everything are detailed very nicely. You know, the side of the body here, again, just more really nice musculature and just a lot more, like, you know, creases and everything. And again, all the scaling looks really good. And same with the hind limbs here. Again, just a lot of really, really nice, like, detailing here. A lot of really nice musculature and just all the scaling and everything looks really good. And of course, that continues into the tail here. You know, just a lot of really nice creases and wrinkles and everything. And again, just a lot of really nice scaling here. The detailing for the thagomizers looks really nice here. It looks pretty nicely defined. And the detailing for the dorsal plates here look perfect. They are so beautifully defined, like, it's insane. Like, it's also helped by, like, the dry brushing of, like, the brown here, but still, as is, like, detail-wise, the dorsal plates also look great. You know, the underside of the figure, again, just a lot of really nice, like, detailing here. All the scaling and everything looks great. The underside of the feet, just a lot of really nice, like, creases and whatnot. And, of course, we have the Jurassic Park logo right there. And that's pretty much it for the detailing here. And overall, the detailing on this figure is phenomenal. So, the detailing here, again, just like with the sculpt, I'd say definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll do some size comparisons, and I just want to say, I love the size of this figure. This is such a big figure, like, it feels good. It has presence. I love the size of this figure, but I just wanted to say that just really quick. But anyway, to start, here we have the first figure in the line. Here we have the Hammond Collection Parasaurolophus. Here we have my previous review, the Hammond Collection Tiger Raptor. Here we have the Hammond Collection Baby Stegosaurus. And I think, color-wise, I think these two look a little out of place, but scale-wise, I think these two look great together. And of course, here we have some hand sanitizer. And here we have Dr. Billy Grant. So at the end of the day, yes, you should get this figure. Like, I'm not even going to ask the question. Like, this is such a nice figure. Like, don't walk, run to get this figure. The painting is really good. The articulation's great. The sculpting's great. The detailing, everything about this figure, I think, is damn near perfect. The only thing that I'm not the biggest fan of, apart from the glass eyes, would be that this figure is a little back heavy. Like, once you get this figure to stand, like, it stands. Like, no problem at all. You know, getting it in, like, certain poses might be a little tricky, but, like, if it, like, once you get it to stand right, like, it's standing there. Like, it's staying. It's not going to tip over. But overall, besides that, yes, this is a very nice figure, and I definitely recommend that you pick this figure up, especially for that price tag. So, MSRP for this guy, as far as the U.S. Retailers go, this figure is exclusive at Target, and this figure is about, like, $43, and I think that's a really good price. You know, for a figure like this, I think that is a really good price, you know, because, again, everything about this figure is great. You know, I love the size of this figure. I love the use of rubber. Like, you know, the tail is made out of rubber, but also the dorsal plates, which I think is really cool. You know, just overall, please get this figure. It is really nice. Even if you don't really like the Lost World that much, like, just as a dinosaur toy, This is just really nice, and I just highly recommend that you pick this figure up. And it's really nice that Mattel have been doing more, like, Lost World stuff lately. Because, you know, we just got this figure. We recently got the Hammond Collection Tiger Raptor. They just announced the SEC exclusive this year, which is the prototype, or not the prototype, but, you know, the Hammond Collection, you know, Bull T-Rex that was teased for that failed Kickstarter for Jurassic Park's 30th anniversary. And yeah, it's a little disappointing that it's a, you know, slight retool slash repaint of a very outdated figure that, you know, needs to be updated. And yeah, the painting is, you know, a little bit of a downgrade from the original prototype. And yeah, they're, you know, releasing this figure in the cringiest way possible, but still, it's the thought that counts, you know. We're finally getting a Hammond Collection Buck T-Rex, and I'm very happy about that, you know. The female T-Rex along the lines would be nice, you know, I'd love to see that, but I can take what I can get. So I'm really happy that Mattel is doing, like, more Lost World stuff. It'd be really nice if they made more Lost World Jurassic Park humans, but I digress. Anyway, I've been rambling on for far too long. That is it for today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace, Zack out.